Hi, Vivant friends. Welcome back. So, let me tell you about the time where I went to Cuba. So, I had held a fundraiser for a dear friend of mine at the time. His friend was a friend of a friend, James Claiborne. Shout out to you, the realest one I know. He wanted to hold a fundraiser for one of his friends she was actually studying to get her become a doctor. And she was studying in Cuba, actually spoke Spanish, super cool. And she was like, yeah, come visit and you can stay with me. And I was like, bet I'm coming. I'm going to Cuba. And so, of course, you couldn't fly to Cuba directly. So I actually went to the Bahamas, got to stay with some dear family friends of mine. And I then booked the ticket because I thought, you know what? They said that you just ask them not to stamp your passport. And when you get into Cuba, and then when you get back, you just go back and then, you're fine. And so I fly to Cuba and I get the ticket when I'm in country. I go and it is an amazing experience. And what I found out, so first of all, I get there, it's a long story, so stay with me here. But I get there, I get to my friends, and she gives me her address, but or I think it was either her address or her number, her school address, but not her home address. So I get on this campus and I'm like, I'm looking for so and so. She's Black, Niagara, and I'm talking, and they're like, yeah, we know who you're talking about. And so they take me to her house, and she's like, hey, Florcy, like, I really didn't expect you to come. I'm like, yeah, here I am. So that was a whole story, but she was so hospitable. She took care of me. She even had an exam that week. So she ended up pairing me with one of her friends that lived locally. And Cuba was so beautiful. It was so clean. And then it had these parts. We went to Old Havana, which was like in walking distance, where that's where you see the Cubana lady smoking the cigars. I'm going to tag one of my old photo albums from Cuba so you guys can see it. But it was super dope. And it was an opportunity to see artists and creatives. And I remember meeting this one artist. It was the first day. I said, whenever I go art shopping, I go and I look at the areas and I do the first, scanning. I don't buy anything. I just try to see what is available. And then I go back the next day and I actually do the shopping. So the first day I go, we walk into this building and we walk up the stairs. It's like this two flights of stairs, but it's just straight up. And we go and it opens up and it's this beautiful open air garden, open air sea. There's huge apartments. You just wouldn't have known, like going upstairs, that it would be this beautiful space. And it was actually an artist studio. And I met this amazing artist. I don't even remember his name, but he had a daughter that was studying or that was in New York at the time. I think she was in finance. He had a son that was in Miami, and he was this older man who had created amazing art. And this collection was part of my 5-year anniversary. And I ended up selling out. I bought about maybe 50 pieces. So when I would go travel, I would buy 50 to 60 pieces at a time. And I sold out of every Cuban piece that I had. And this was the only one that I kept for myself because I knew this would be part of my personal collection. And when he was telling me about it, what really gravitated me to it was, one, the way that he created is he used actually gold leaf, he used egg wash and charcoal. And so the background is all charcoal, and then these are all like gold leaf. And for me, it just symbolized royalty. And when you think about the relationships between Cuba and Black Americans and Haitians, and just the complexion and the fact that she was this Black, beautiful, had red coloring undertones in her face. She just was royalty. And I've had this piece, for over 10 years. It's been in my collection. And even in picking out the frame, I wanted a gold leaf frame to just really bring out the royalty and really the ancientness, right? When you think about, African Americans or Black folks being part of royalty and being dignity, I wanted to show that. So Cuba, was a once in a lifetime event. And, I remember, going to my friend's house, who actually the person that hosted me, a friend of a friend, she ended up hosting me because my friend at the time was studying for an exam and she just didn't have the time. And so we went and, you know, a couple things stuck out to me. And one was, she told me a story of like, she's educated and she was really interestingly angry. And she was like, you think about what's happening politically. And she was like, they educated us, but then we can't find a job. and we can't do the work that we want to do. And so I think about my role as someone that tells stories through our pieces and through art and use it as a medium, how important it is to move art outside. And when you think of propaganda and you think about the messages that are, in the narratives that are not told, I remember saying, wow, it's important for me to continue that story. There was another piece of this was, we stayed in old Havana, and then there was, she stayed in the suburbs and we had to take a bus and we took the beautiful old 1950 cars. But then there's another side of, Cuba that's very beautiful, very upscale, very bourgeoisie. And this is where the Russians and a lot of, Europeans, they come and vacation, and it's beautiful. And I think it just reminds us of having to get out of our comfort zone and really leaning into culture and the power of knowing that, through food, through art, through music, through the people, you get a taste of that culture. And so this work that I'm doing is just beyond, just selling a painting. It's really sharing cultural stories that are really important that need to be told. And so that's my story of Cuba. I want to go back. Anyone going, please invite me. I'd like to go back. I remember the last piece I'll say is there was this huge, amazing art market there where there were hundreds and hundreds of artists that were selling art. And it's all the contemporary modern images that you see on IG. And these are people that were actually painting real paintings, and you're seeing them for prints, and you can get them for the same price. And so I'd love to encourage people to take that trip to Cuba, or if you see a painting that you like on Vivant's website that reminds you of a trip that you've gone to that you couldn't grab a piece, consider grabbing it now. All right, see you guys online. Bye now.